Go ahead.
All right, the time is now 6:46 p.m. and I'll call back to order our regular session of our McMinnville Fire District Board meeting on December 14th at 6:46 p.m. And that takes us to roll call. I'll call on Don to do roll call or Chief Law.
Okay. Director Sparrow. Here. Treasurer Trapp. Secretary Pratt. Here. Vice President Smith. Here. And President Garvin.
Here.
Here's Director Trapp.
He is not on Zoom yet. Chief Darby, if he joins, if you could just call out when he does.
Absolutely.
And that takes us to Pledge of Allegiance. Director Sparrow, would you like to lead us tonight?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that brings us to any changes to the agenda. I'm not aware of any. Nothing's been removed from the agenda. Consent agenda, approval of minutes. I don't think we have anything there. No financial report, so it takes us to public comment. Now would be a time for anybody on Zoom or anybody in the audience to have 3 minutes to speak to anything that regarding district business, not to exceed 3 minutes unless it's in litigation. Has anybody in the audience turned in any comment cards?
I have not received any.
No. Anybody on Zoom raise their hand?
See anything right now?
All right, last call for anybody on Zoom or in the audience for public comment. Hearing none, I'll close public comment and move to business action items, which brings us to resolution 2023-15 to authorize an intergovernmental agreement between the McMinnville Fire District and the city of McMinnville. And I'll call on Truman to brief us on that, I guess.
Thank you, President Garvin, members of the board. Before you tonight for approval is the resolution approving the intergovernmental agreement with the city of McMinnville for transfer of fire department assets and the assumption of fire department obligations and liabilities. We've had some discussion, including discussion in executive session about some of the negotiation and some of the recommendations that I've made to the district board, and my understanding is the city of McMinnville has agreed or passed a resolution authorizing entry of this IGA on Tuesday night. It is before you for consideration. One thing I will just note is that it approves in substance the documents that are attached, but gives some leeway to the fire chief and or board president to execute those documents adopted by this resolution in substantially the form attached, and to make such minor adjustments as are necessary to correct any non-substantial errors or to implement the intent of the board. So there likely are a few loose ends to be wrapped up. The city's resolution authorized the city manager to likewise have some discretion in getting those wrapped up. But this is in substance the deal that was struck with the city, reflected in the documents, and I would recommend the board approve it.
Thank you, Truman. Any questions for legal counsel Truman Stone? No?
No.
Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve resolution 2023-15, the IGA between the MFD and City of McMinnville.
I'll make a resolution that we adopt resolution 2023-15. Authorize an IGA between McMinnville Fire District and the City of McMinnville.
All right, a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Vice President Smith and a second by Secretary Pratt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. And that takes us to our next item of business, which is item B, Civil Service Commission advertising, and I'll call on HR Director Hedges to brief us on that.
So just a quick overview on civil service rules. We are working on a draft of that. We are not planning to finalize those rules until there's a commission in place and the board and the commission can decide on those rules together. We are working with the local on the draft of those rules so that we can propose those jointly. However, there are some things that we'll need to decide prior to advertising for the commission, or however we decide to form a commission, the board will need to decide. ORS is basically gives the board permission to form a commission. There's not a process described in ORS to explain how the board selects commissioners. There are some general things in ORS. The ORS, for example, says that a commission is 3 members. Does not have to be 3 members, so the board has the opportunity to change that to whatever number they see fit. So I can go through a couple of the things that the board needs to decide, but the first thing is a decision on how the board wants to select commissioners. And I don't know if you guys want me to pause or continue. Questions so far? We need to decide how commissioners are selected. We need to decide how many commissioners. We'll also need to decide on who might be exempt from the commission. So ORS says current employees and direct board of directors. However, that should also include volunteers. Our legal team recommended, didn't recommend, they said we could exclude former, current employees, volunteers, and board members as well. With the thought process that commissioners shouldn't have affiliation with the district due to potential conflict of interest. In initial conversations with the local, they would like to remove the exemption for former. So they would like former employees and volunteers to be elected to the commission. So I just want to present that so that you guys have that information. The local has also asked that they be a part of the selection process in some capacity. So have some kind of weigh in. That is not necessarily a part of ORS. ORS gives full authority to the board to appoint commissioners, but the local has asked to be a part of that process in some capacity. And then the other thing that we'll need to decide today is the term of office for commissioners. ORS says a term is 4 years. However, because there's concern that we would select a commission right now and 4 years later, they would all end their term. I did ask council about staggering those terms of when we first established the commission, and there was no concern with doing that. So the board will need to discuss that as well. Obviously, we're deciding on how they're appointed, because if we're going to appoint people, they need to know what their term is.
Okay. Anything else?
I kept remembering something and then I forgot it, so I apologize.
All right. I'll open up for discussion. Any thoughts, comments, questions?
Asked to decide this tonight.
And we're not making rules tonight, but I think if we, so long story short, without a civil service commission, after January 1, there will be no hiring until a civil service commission is in place. So.
Sorry, that's what I was going to add. We could not hire without, so we would have to follow the
ORS.
exactly, so then we'd be creating a whole process under RRS just to recreate
A better process.
under civil service rules, so we'd be restricted on hiring until they're in place.
So do we have to come to a decision tonight? No. Just, if we don't come to a decision tonight, we're pushing that out another week, so there. It's just how big of a gap do we want to have between, hiring and not hiring?
Do we know how long it'll take to get this process complete?
So that depends on how long we want to advertise for applications.
Seems like it could take at least a few weeks.
So I would recommend to advertise at least 2 weeks. And that's with us also being proactive about sharing it within our networks. If there's, retired individuals you think might be a good fit. My personal thoughts is to have a commission of 5, because if you have a commission of 3 and one's can't make it, you don't have a quorum. My other thought would be to not allow any 2 civil service commissioners to have the same perspective. So if we were going to remove the former, to have it only be allowed 1 former MAC Fire volunteer, 1 former MAC paid, and then your other 3 need to be from different perspectives, whether that's Salem Fire, 12th Valley, Portland, or Forest Grove, or wherever. But that way you keep a fully independent board, which is what we're trying to establish.
Okay.
Those are my personal thoughts. I haven't ran that by legal, but I would think it's legal. If you could exclude former, you could also put parameters around where you want a perspective to come from.
I also don't think that would be an issue, just based on conversations with council. The goal is really to just make sure that we substantially accomplish what's outlined in ORS, and I don't think that would interfere with that.
But that's, after the packet came out and we were asked to kind of be prepared to answer those questions. So that's kind of where I've been thinking on it. I think definitely staggering the terms. If we went with a 5 member commission, do you do those, make 1 expire each year, kind of like the water and light commission is, and then, obviously 1 year, 2 of them would expire together, but that way there's always great continuity and you don't have large disruption. We could also do it like our term power, where it's 2 or 3 years, or 3 or 4 years initially, and start to stagger that way. But that means, 1 year, 3 people are coming off, a majority's coming off, potentially.
Do we expect it to be challenging to find people to serve on this? Well, no, I haven't given that much thought. Okay.
Do we know how it's advertised by other agencies when they?
So I did ask, and essentially everybody does it a little bit different. Some people advertise, sometimes the board knows people, sometimes the fire chief knows somebody. Like, everybody kind of does it a little bit different, and there's no parameters really outlined in ORS for how to appoint commissioners.
Well, I think civil service is a really important part of how we do business. It bring consistency to hiring and fairness, and so it's important that we get it done. I don't know if we have to do it tonight, but it's important that we get it done. And I like the 5-member idea and how we stagger the terms. The way you presented it makes sense to me, so I'd be supportive of that. And I don't have any problem having former employees or volunteers as part of civil service. So. Yeah. Those are my thoughts.
Are you fine, like, isolating? It's just kind of like we do with wards with city, like, we don't want it stacked heavy.
Yeah, so
One
what
spot.
you're saying, so we don't have, we wouldn't have, everybody.
4 former volunteers.
Yeah.
1 former super.
Sure, that would
Yeah.
make sense to me. And create some parity.
Yeah.
On commission.
Or all
Or,
formal paid
yeah.
staff and no volunteers,
Yeah.
it's just kind of however that cookie's crumbling at that point in time, but at least if we have parameters around it, you're guaranteed some diversity among the panel.
Yeah.
Director Sparrow, any thoughts from you?
I like the idea of staggering the terms one each year, like you said, so that you don't have 3 1 year. Plus, if you struggle to even find one person who's interested, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
we don't, but all of a sudden you have to select 3 at a time, and you have one person that wants to do it. So
Yeah.
it makes sense to stagger it that way, so that hopefully at least you have, if people aren't wanting to serve, you have people who.
For that 5th person, do we have any thoughts on how we want their term to be? If we want it to be like,
They could do the 2 years, that makes sense.
any thoughts, Ray?
Yeah, so you guys pretty much mirrored most of my thoughts. I don't have any issue with the union assisting with the selection. Other than that, you guys have it covered.
Okay, so terms. So as far as what's asked tonight in our packet, that's something you guys are good with, to where we can put an advertisement out for the next few weeks, or do you wanna
Yeah.
in it for a week,
Yeah,
or?
I'll see why not. Hopefully we can move forward. Seems like we have consensus.
Okay. Anything else you need from us,
Can
or?
you just summarize, was the decision 5?
5-member commission, terms stagger a year each. And that 5th commissioner will have 2 2-year terms. In that initial 5 board appointment, and then no more than one commissioner can have the same perspective, so. I don't know how we word that, but
So maybe, let me see if I'm hearing you. On the commission, there can be no more than 1 former employee, no more than 1 former volunteer.
from the same district
Okay.
or department.
I know this might be a little bit in the weeds, but there are career firefighters that used to be volunteers as well. So do we need to? Because
Me personally, I would lean on whatever they had the majority in, so
Okay.
if they were a 20-year paid and a 5-year volunteer, I would count that as paid perspective.
Mhm.
Just like if they split time, like 10 years here and 20 years at Portland Fire, I would count that as Portland Fire, former, not former in the McMinnville Fire. Because the majority of their perspective came from Portland Fire.
I'll work with legal on some wording.
Does that work for you
Yeah,
guys?
makes sense. That'll work. Supportive of having the union be involved in the process of selecting, but what would that look like?
That's my last question, is what does the advertising selection process look like to the board? Just want to put out an advertisement somewhere.
I mean, if the fire chief's gonna be involved and the board's involved and the union wants to be involved, that's still an odd number. It can be a panel of 7 instead of a panel of 5, setting applications if you wanted them that involved. If you wanted them more just to shape the qualifications of a civil service number, it could be. Does involvement stop there? I mean, where do you guys see involvement level?
I just want to say we don't have to run it like an interview job process. So it could be really that you receive applications and, just have like a meet and greet, or like you can design that process to be what you want it to be. And also what qualifications are for a commissioner, like the board gets to decide those things.
Yeah, airport commission, budget committee, all that kind of stuff. We send 10 to 15-minute interviews. We do all the interviews back to back, typically with 5-minute breaks between. And then at the end of all the interviews, we debrief.
We just make sure the stakeholders are all in the room at that time.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
so. That work for you?
Works for me.
Any thoughts, Ray?
Nope. Good.
All right, how long did you say 2 weeks for the advertisement? How long do you want to run?
Let's do 2 weeks with the opportunity to extend it if we don't have enough applicants or.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
interested in that part, but we'll see.
Nothing else from me on that one.
And is there any minimum qualifications other than they need to live within district boundary, or do they even have? to-
Not per ORS, the board could. And not be current or. Board members or employees.
Yeah, so besides not be current employees or board members, do we want to put something like need to live within district boundary or? Something like that?
I think it'd be best if they lived within the boundaries. But if we can't find enough people, then. Maybe we should just give residents a preference. We can.
Yeah, I have seen language in that where. Your like city commissions, you get, you know, need to live within the UGB, but if there is an applicant that overwhelmingly has a better qualification, then you can use that out. We had that in the historic landmarks committee appointment last go around.
I like that. That keeps the door open for those that are interested that may not live in the district, but yeah, we give preference to those that do. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Any other parameters? All right, does that give you enough to work with to make a post for it?
I hope so.
If not, let's have it back before us next week.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that's the end of business action items, takes us to other business, board committee and liaison reports, LoSAP, which Treasurer Trask isn't with us, but, do you have anything on that? Shippo?
I do, just real quick, do we want to let Truman know that you can,
Oh, yeah. Truman, thank you for joining us. I think we're good. Enjoy wherever you're traveling at.
board, the only thing I did forward, our monthly statement onto, Treasurer Trapp. Everything's looking good, moving forward and so forth. We are also in the final stages of, working on transferring that asset completely over, and tonight's adoption we'll be able to make those transitions probably early next week from the city. So
Awesome.
look for that to be finalized hopefully next week.
Okay. Branding, Director Sparrow?
Yes, we had a meeting November 29th. We actually had a representative from the company that design company that Hugh Darby found, from JF Creative came out. Very professional, knows her stuff, good to work with. We gave her a deadline to work within. We've requested, she's gonna do 3 mock-ups for us in black and white. And we requested those, is it the 19th? 20. That we requested those back. So we'll have another meeting December 20th at 5:30.
Sweet, maybe see those next week then on the 21st.
Well, we're gonna look at, there's gonna be the mock-ups in black and white that we'll look at with a couple of them will have type changes on them. Because we weren't sure how we wanted to do the wording on the patch. And then there's gonna be a separate meeting to discuss color palettes.
Oh, nice. All right, well, thank you for that. That takes us to board information reports and call on HR Director Hedges to brief us on fire chief.
Sorry, it was ahead of the agenda. So we're still moving through the background check process. I'm hoping to schedule an executive session to go over that. I hope we'll be finished by the December 28th meeting.
Okay. And that takes us to informational items, department reports. First up is local 3099.
Nothing much.
Next up is volunteer association. We have President Pete Goodman among us tonight.
Yeah, a couple things. I have, the volunteers this month, we've done a couple things with the toy collections. We had a big, stuff the bus thing on December 2nd. I was with White Cat. They collected food and we collected gifts for the fire department toys. And next week we will be delivering all those toys on the 20th to the families we have.
Drill night.
It's a drill night, yes. Yep, we have a dinner and then we go out and go over all the gifts.
What time does that start?
Dinner's at 5 and then we'll try to be out the door at 6, because it does take us 3-4 hours.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
think we have how many families?
110.
110 families this year we're delivering to.
Right now, like you're still adding, Nancy?
We could have emergencies, sometimes we have foster kids come in, sometimes we have grandparents end up with grandchildren. They weren't expecting, they don't have the budget for last minute emergencies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that.
And Sean Paul, thank you as well. That's a big lift for you. Fire chief's report, Chief Law.
Yes, just a few things in addition to what Chief Hannafin sent out is in the board packet. I just wanted to highlight over the last few weeks. We completed our volunteer fire academy, the Yamaha County Fire Academy, graduating 28 total for the county, 5 of which are members of our organization here. So they've completed all their training requirements for firefighter 1, and we'll continue to work on drill nights and task book stuff for certification. Today, we completed our 2-week career academy, onboarding 3 of our new career people we've hired over the last couple of months that we've previously briefed you on. And so that fire academy and 2-week academy ended today, and they will start tomorrow on their regular 24-48 rotation. They've been working some of those already, but moving forward with that, 2 of the 3 are currently working on seconds, and the third is not far from being a second on the rig instead of riding thirds. So looking good there. And also, as Chief Hannafin mentioned in the report, we do have a firefighter paramedic that is going to be returning, that had left our organization and is coming back on December 27th, I believe it is, on C shift that week. So that will leave us with 2 firefighter paramedic position openings and 1 single role paramedic opening. So we're making some good headway there. We are also looking at that week after Christmas, starting a hiring process. We do have some people in NTN that have shown interest in the firefighter paramedic position, and we do currently have open the single role paramedic position. So any questions on that?
You said you were looking to hire 2 firefighter paramedics and 1 single role?
Correct. We have a based on the last historical year, we'll say, we have a pretty big pool of candidates in there that are interested right now. So we want to get that process started to get them on board as quickly as possible, and potentially look at being fully staffed here in the very start of the new year. Obviously, backgrounds and checkoffs and writing thirds and that stuff will take 6 to 8 weeks. So we're looking still at the end of February, but the light is very bright at the end of the tunnel.
Sounds great. Any planned vacancies for the end of the year? Any retirements?
We have not been notified of any. So we do have 1 person on work back, and under the current CBA, it shows the work back is is allowed for 2 years, and that 2-year mark is June of 2024. So that would be the next forecasted known vacancy.
With that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make a note about the hiring, since I said earlier that we wouldn't be able to hire without the civil service rules in place. Any process that started before January 1, we can complete. So just want to make a note about that.
Awesome.
And that's the push after Christmas between that week to work on that. Next week, next week we have a AO process to establish a list for apparatus operator, pump operator, and then AIC pump operator. Our current list expired end of November, and so we're getting that going for December. So we'll have that list as well. I talked about the hiring process. On the transition side, we did have a pretty good conversation this week with our payroll company, and they feel we are perfectly on schedule and have no concerns at all with a January 12th payday. It'll be the 12th because the 15th is Monday and it's a holiday, so it reverts back to 3 days sooner than we had originally thought. But they feel we're fully where we should be in the transition for that. Another thing that we did on Saturday, had our annual Christmas party that the volunteers put on for the district. So we had our first fire district meeting. So thank you. I know Pete and a couple of our other members did a good push to put on the first real Christmas party in 3 years. Since 2019, since pre-COVID. So it was kind of nice to be able to roll back into the some of those traditions. Let's see here, what else? I think the only other thing I have on my list is I just want to echo Chief Hannafin's message about the administrative team, the line staff, and the heavy lift that has been going on over the last couple of months. We're seeing that light on the end of the tunnel, not only on our staffing side, but that transition January 1st. And like I was joking with somebody today, the light at the end of the tunnel is now starting to glow the path, and we can actually see it. And I thank you guys for your support. I think all of our administrative team, as well as our line staff and volunteers, for a lot of the work that's been going on over the last the last 6 weeks, but over the last 6 months, really. So I think that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Chief Law? Anything from the other chief in the room, Chief Darby?
Sure. Just a brief update on a couple things. I just want to highlight, we had a residential structure fire back on the 21st of November on Emily Drive, single family. Came in just after 1700. Crews did an amazing job, got a quick knockdown on it. Ended up displacing 3 residents, and the crews ended up rescuing 5 pets. The cause was attributed to combustibles being left on a stovetop. Another quick item, we recently started with one of our occupancies implementing what's called alarm verification. Essentially what it is, it gives the occupants of a facility, in this case, we have a staff 24-hour security team that's there, and essentially what we're allowing them to do now is verify false alarms within a 90-second window to minimize faulty alarms that are coming through dispatch. This is a program that's consistent with some of our metro area fire districts and departments that do this too. Some departments blanketed across the entire jurisdiction. We're going to do it pinpointed. It really only works where there's staffed personnel 24 hours, but we've already seen a reduction with this one specific occupancy. They've had a few fire alarms that have come through, and we're still tracking them on the back end, but we're not getting them all the way through dispatch. So it's a new program. It's exciting.
Yeah, glad to hear it's working.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Just as mentioned, to piggyback off Director Sparrow, we're working closely with the designer, and we put them in touch with the supplier for the logo group, and we're hoping to hopefully have the black and whites will come out on the 20th, and then we'll make some decisions and get the color scheme. We're shooting for no later than mid-January, because there's some other things that are kind of held up the website, some other components that are held up from that. So we're really pushing, and I think hopefully we'll get there. So.
Okay. That takes us to correspondence. You guys all got the letter from Commissioner Chair Burshour, and just wanted to bring that to light this evening. If there's any thoughts you guys wanted to do as a board, I personally responded to her as board president, but if there's anything you guys wanted to do as a board, I personally don't see why we want to get involved in that. It's not in our purview, but I'm one of five, so if there's other thoughts, then I'm here to listen and support if there's consensus.
I thought your response was just fine.
Okay.
You're good.
Any other correspondence? I don't think I've got anything from Dennis Gex lately. All right, informational items. No informational items. Our next meeting will be Thursday, December 21st at 1800 or 6 p.m. And with that, I'll adjourn tonight's meeting at 7:21 p.m.
You say exactly.
And you're not wrong.
Huh?
Professional.